Imagine finding a 70-year-old AK-47 completely rusted and lying at the bottom of a river. Today, we're going to bring this weapon back to life, step by step. But will it fire again? Let's find out. Before we dive in, hit subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a restoration like this. This AK-47 was pulled from a river where it had been submerged for decades. Water, mud, and corrosion have eaten away at almost every surface. The wood is rotted, the metal covered in thick rust, and some parts are nearly unrecognizable. This is the kind of restoration that tests every skill a gunsmith has. Before touching anything, document every detail. Restoration is about preserving history, not just making it fire again. Each part is soaked in decades of river grime. Care is crucial to avoid breaking fragile components. Patience is key. Rushing can damage the metal irreversibly.
Completely rusted AK-47 that had clearly spent decades underwater. The metal was covered in thick orange corrosion. The wooden stock was dark, cracked, and swollen from years of water damage. Even the trigger was frozen solid. At first glance, it looked like nothing more than a piece of scrap metal pulled from the river. But hidden under all that rust was one of the most iconic rifles ever built. Before starting any restoration, the first step is always a full inspection. Every part of the rifle needs to be checked carefully to see what can be saved and what might need replacement. The receiver appears heavily corroded but still structurally intact. The barrel is packed with mud and hardened debris. The bolt carrier refuses to move even slightly. At this stage, patience is critical. Trying to force anything could easily snap internal parts that may still be salvageable. The rifle is placed on the workbench and photographed from every angle to document its original condition. The disassembly process begins with the dust cover. Normally, it would pop off easily, but after decades underwater, it refuses to move. A penetrating oil is applied to loosen the rust bonds between the metal pieces. After waiting several minutes, gentle pressure finally allows the cover to break free. Underneath, the internal components are even worse. The recoil spring is stuck in place and completely coated in rust. Mud and river sediment have hardened around the bolt carrier. One by one, the parts are slowly removed. The recoil spring assembly comes out first. Then the bolt carrier is carefully tapped loose with a rubber mallet. The trigger group is still locked in position, requiring more penetrating oil and careful tapping. The wooden stock is the next challenge. Water has soaked into the wood fibers for years, causing deep cracks and discoloration. Removing it without breaking it completely requires slow and careful movements. Finally, after nearly an hour of work, the rifle is fully disassembled into separate components. What started as a single rusted object from the river now lies across the workbench in dozens of pieces. But every single part is still covered in thick corrosion. The real work is about to begin. In the next stage, these parts will go through deep rust removal and cleaning. This is where the transformation truly begins. When decades of damage slowly start disappearing and the original metal surfaces begin to reveal themselves again. And this is the moment where many restorations fail, because sometimes the rust has already done too much damage.
Now the real restoration begins. Every metal component from the rifle is placed into a rust removal bath. The solution slowly begins breaking down years of corrosion that have fused themselves to the steel. Within minutes, small bubbles start forming on the surface of the metal. This is the chemical reaction loosening the rust layer that has been building for decades. After soaking for several hours, the parts are removed from the bath one at a time. The transformation is already noticeable. The thick orange rust is beginning to dissolve, revealing darker steel beneath. But chemical soaking is only the first step. Each piece now needs mechanical cleaning. A wire brush is used to remove the remaining corrosion from the surface. As the brush moves across the metal, the original shapes of the components begin to return. The bolt carrier is cleaned carefully to avoid damaging the sliding surfaces. Even small imperfections here could affect the rifle's function later. Next comes the barrel. This is one of the most important parts of the entire firearm. A cleaning rod is pushed through the barrel to remove the hardened mud that filled the bore when it was underwater. Large chunks of dirt and rust flakes fall out as the rod moves through. After several passes, the interior of the barrel finally begins to clear. Meanwhile, smaller parts like springs, pins, and screws are polished using fine steel wool. These tiny components are easy to overlook. but they are essential for proper operation. The receiver requires extra attention. Rust had formed deep pits across the surface. Using gentle sanding and polishing, the corrosion is gradually reduced without removing too much original metal. While the metal restoration continues, attention turns to the wooden furniture. The original stock is heavily damaged, but still salvageable. It is carefully sanded to remove the outer layer of dark water damage. As the sanding continues, lighter wood slowly appears underneath. Once smooth, the wood is treated with conditioner to restore strength and prevent cracking. A protective oil finish is applied, bringing back the warm, natural color of the wood. Now the rifle parts are starting to look alive again. What once looked like a destroyed piece of river scrap is slowly becoming recognizable as a rifle again. But there is still one final stage before this restoration is complete. The most important stage of all, reassembly and function testing. And that moment will determine whether this rifle will ever work again.
After hours of cleaning, polishing, and restoring every component, the time has finally come to rebuild the rifle. The workbench is now covered with neatly arranged parts. The once rusted components now shine with freshly cleaned steel surfaces. The restored wooden stock sits beside them, looking almost new. Reassembly begins with the receiver. Internal components are placed back into their original positions. The trigger assembly is installed first, followed by the hammer and safety mechanism. Each piece moves smoothly now, a huge difference from the frozen rusted parts at the beginning. Next, the bolt and bolt carrier are inserted. As the carrier slides forward for the first time, it moves effortlessly along the rails. This is always one of the most satisfying moments in a restoration. The recoil spring assembly is added next, followed by the dust cover which locks firmly back into place. Finally, the restored wooden stock and handguards are reattached. The warm color of the wood contrasts beautifully against the dark metal finish. What was once a corroded object pulled from the river has now returned to its original form. The final step is a full mechanical inspection. The bolt is cycled several times to confirm smooth movement. The safety selector is tested, the trigger resets properly. Every mechanism now operates exactly as it should. The transformation is almost unbelievable. Just hours earlier, this rifle looked like nothing more than rusted scrap metal hidden beneath river mud. Now it stands fully restored, clean, and functional again. Side-by-side comparison shows the incredible difference. The before image reveals a rifle covered in corrosion and decay. The after image shows a classic AK-47 brought back to life. This restoration is a reminder of just how durable these machines can be. Even after years underwater, buried in mud and rust, the core structure survived. Sometimes the history refuses to disappear. Sometimes it just waits to be rediscovered and restored. And this AK-47 is proof of that.